Hey, Tom Miller here from Leaders Building Leaders, and thanks so much for being a part of this governance strengthening exercise series, and thanks so much for being a board member or charter school principal. I mean, all the work that you do is so important. Again, I just finished spending 6 years as a charter school board member, and it's such a critical job because we model the way to excellence, right? The charter school board is responsible for vision, for really looking forward, helping the organization look forward. So hopefully last month you watched last month's session and you had your annual retreat or just your annual meeting, and you had a really good opportunity to build those relationships with those new board members, understand what their strengths are, help them have some clarity in their role as a board member, and really set those organizational goals moving forward. Now, let's really talk about how those goals happen, right? So one board I was working with, I asked them, well, how long is your average board meeting? And they said, oh, I don't know, 3 hours, 4 hours. I said, oh, 3 hours or 4 hours? And oh my goodness, I said, you already work full-time jobs. I mean, to spend another 3 or 4 hours each month working as a board, I mean, that doesn't sound like you're hosting very effective board meetings. And what I had identified is that they did not have any standing committees driving their board. They, pretty much were a working board, and they were working during the board meetings. And so effective standing committees are crucial to a board's success. They complete the majority of the board's work, freeing the full board for attention to matters like responding to emergency critical issues, strategic planning, or major policy development, and long-range financial decisions. Charter school board developers need to develop strategies for helping the board design and maintain a strong standing committee structure that really enhances its overall effectiveness. I mean, ultimately, every action that a board takes, every decision should come through one of two places: a recommendation from the head of school, or a recommendation from a standing committee that's done the deep dive of the work. And so in our book, in our ebook, and hopefully if you click the button below this video, you'll be able to download our ebook if you don't have a copy of it. It's called Navigate. And Navigate stands for the necessary and vital information to gain action towards excellence. And that's what a standing committee does. They do the work in between the board meetings to bring recommendations to the board for the board to vote on. And each month, this committee should spend maybe 5 to 7 minutes reporting on their work from that prior month, and either as an FYI, as a discussion item, right, to get more information, or to make a recommendation for action. Now, committees are critical. Now, how many committees should you have? And I remember working with another charter school board. In fact, it was actually the board that was having 3 or 4 hour meetings. I asked, well, how many committees that? They said 9 standing committees, but there was only 7 board members. I said, well, that math really doesn't make sense. Why would you have nine committees? Tell me what they were. And they were all sorts of things that were really filled with operational type issues like personnel and facilities and things of that nature. So here's where I recommend you start. If you don't have a healthy standing committee, and I would start with these 4. So the first one is the finance committee, and this is their major responsibilities are creating the upcoming fiscal year budget, presenting budget recommendations to the board, monitoring implementation of the currently approved budget, recommending board revisions, recommending appropriate policies for the charter school's assets. I mean, they're the ones who really do the secondary deep dive with the school's management team to ensure that the organization is viable. And so it's probably, I won't say it's the most important committee, but it's the most important that it stays, functioning. And because the #1 reason that charter schools fail, and have to close is because ultimately they run out of money, right? Or they don't have anybody watching the funds. The second highly recommended committee is the governance committee. Now, this is the one that I believe is the most important because their major responsibility is to evaluate the health of the organization. to recruit and nominate, orient, and train new board members, evaluate the board as a whole, to ensure that the bylaws are being met. And also, they could also have a part in evaluating the head of school. When I was a board member, the governance committee was the overall committee that drove the head of school evaluation process, and it was an ad hoc team that did that. And we also oversaw any grievance issues. And so the last really important role that a governance committee will have is that they oversee the policy development process. Okay, so evaluate the organization, the health of the organization, the health of the board, recruit new members, orient them, train them. Really critical parts of the governance structure is that governance committee. Ultimately, responsible for ensuring that school-wide policies are in adherence to current law and creating the culture that you desire as a school. The next two, academic excellence committee, maybe the hardest committee to really ensure that it governs and doesn't cross the lines between governance and management. But ultimately, their major responsibility is to work with the school leader and the leadership team to define academic excellence. What are the organization's goals? What are the outcomes that we want students to have? And ensure all board members know that the charter promises that were made to the community and the authorizer are really being met, right? So maybe they analyze the success of the education plan. They analyze data. They maybe help in the recruitment of specific programs or take a look at the curriculum. So honestly, so the people who are on these committees, right, each one of these, whether it's finance, academic, or governance, they should have members of the board with those specific strengths, right? So as an academic excellence committee, you want someone who understands what effective teaching looks like and learning looks like, and maybe you have someone who's really good at analyzing data. That would be some of the strengths, and so you can have board members on here, but you can also invite critical friends. So they might be board members. You can invite parents and stakeholders, and obviously staff. I think a good effective committee, finance, academic, and governance, has a mixture of current board members and current staff and some external pieces, because those external members, those critical friends, or those stakeholders in the community, maybe the parents, they're your future board members. I mean, they, at our school, we had an expectation that every board member would recruit one or two possible board members, and if they didn't make our board, we asked them to be on one of our committees. The last committee is a development committee. So their major responsibility, if you're in need, is to raise additional funding, not write grants, right? To raise funding, so maybe it's a capital campaign or some annual campaign that you run to really support the school's mission, to accelerate that. Those mission-based programs. Maybe their job is to recruit additional human resources, not employees, but strategic resources to help support the school's mission. And so here, you want individuals that have actually raised large amounts of money. So if you need to start a capital campaign, you should start recruiting board members who have done it before. You don't want someone, no offense to those, who run bake sales and things like that. But if you've got a goal to raise $1 million, you don't want, someone who's, running it, who's never raised more than $10,000. So you want someone, to do that. So your committee structure is critical because it brings information to the board. It streamlines your board meetings. So here's your homework, right? Here's your governance strengthening exercise for this next month. And this is to make a list of all the committees that you're currently established by the board, regardless, who's on there, right? Just make a list. Now for each committee, discuss whether that committee exists to help the board do its work, or does it exist to help the management do its work? And I would vote to eliminate any board established committee that pertains to helping the management team do its work. Remember, governance is about how well, right, are our plans working, and the management team is how will. Okay, so the finance committee oversees how well the finances, how the financial plan is working, the academic excellence, how well is the academic plan. The governance is how well are the school's policies, creating the culture we desire the C. You know, development committee is a working committee. It's there to raise money, right? It's there to enhance the organization. So vote to eliminate any board established committee that doesn't do this. Now, do this even or especially if individual board members regard a particular committee as their main interest, right? I don't care if they love to do it. If it's management related, you have to take it outside and kill it. And then establish a board policy restricting board committees solely on helping the board to do its job, right? So if you don't have these in place and you don't have clear definitions for them, you know, I can provide them for you. You can email me at tom@lbleaders.com, or when you click on the link and get access to our ebook and our other board resources. We've got job descriptions for committees, who should be on them, and other support. And the other thing, I just want to make sure, so those goals that you established at the retreat, so now you're going to take those goals and you're going to put them under the umbrella of one of these committees. So now you have a committee specifically built to oversee some of those goals. Remember, those goals towards a 10-year renewal are so important, especially here in North Carolina. It's all about finances, academics, and your legal standing. So hopefully this added value to you. If you and your board is looking for additional support, I highly recommend you know, enrolling in our Board Leadership Academy. You know, there's a link here in the comments for you to be able to learn more about that. But what the Board Leadership Academy does, it really creates a year-long professional development plan for each one of your board members, as well as provide you resources like the ones that I'm sharing here about committee structure and how to improve that structure. Again, hope this message added value to you. Be sure, at least at minimum, to make sure you click on the link and get these free resources that I've provided for you, how to build your standing committees and our governance structure ebook. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for what you do. Have a great day.